stew, and her name is Minerva. Ouch! She's the flower of the flower. Ouch!
Welcome to the show.
Don't start! We haven't left yet!
Welcome, everybody. It's once again time for Comics, Cryptids, and Cannonballs. I am your host, Aaron Lopresti, a veteran of the comic book industry for over 35 years. So welcome, everybody. I just found out because I'm the guy who's never in the know because I don't really pay attention, which is my own fault. I, accept full responsibility. But apparently, Ethan's launching a campaign today and was streaming earlier today. And so, you guys, if you haven't checked that out, do you want to go over to Back Me Bro? That's Shane Davis's new platform, and check out Ethan's new book that's launching. And I'm not even quite sure what it is because I'm not paying attention like I should be, but there you have it. So a little plug there for our good friend Ethan, who's always helped me out, and I greatly appreciate that. So anyway, on with the show. This is it. I'm on time, and I think I deserve a monumental amount of respect for that. In fact, I was actually about a minute early. So what are you going to do? I had a interesting weekend. I didn't know really what I was going to do on this show other than the usual stuff that we always do. But the local theater here in town showing The Thing this week, and I went last night by myself because there's no one else around that'll go watch that movie with me. Had a box of Raisinets and watched The Thing again, which made me think. Now I've done a show on the ending and the hidden meaning and who's who and what's what, and we've done more than a couple deep dives into this movie. That's not really what I'm going to focus on today, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So that's going to be on there. I also saw another movie. I saw a Woody Allen movie this weekend that is 16 years old, but I hadn't seen it. And my daughter was like, "Oh, I love that movie." And I was going through Tubi, but I often do. I'll make dinner and I'll sit on the couch and I'll be eating dinner or something. And I'll say, what? Or when I'm making dinner or something's cooking in the oven I'm waiting for, and I go, what can I turn on for like 15 minutes on Tubi that I can watch that's not going to end up taking up 2 hours of my night? And so I'll find like a really bad B horror movie that you can only stand about 15 minutes of, and then you got to turn it off. And so that's usually what I do. But I saw this movie up there, which we'll get to in a little bit later. And I'll give you my reactions to that. Let's see, what else? I got a lot of art to show you today. And just, our normal stuff that we do. Got artwork, got flat files, Oscars from 1944. Not a great year for the Oscars, but some interesting stuff happened, and we'll take note of that. We're going to do our top 10 amazing Spider-Man covers. Not an easy task considering there's 500 and some issues of Spider-Man to pick just 10. But I think I went up to about 400, and then I said, I'm done looking. So I took the top 10 out of the top 400, in my opinion, my educated opinion. And so we'll take a look at those, which I'm sure will piss off a lot of people. But, Such is life. Anyway, so a lot of stuff to go over today, but first, we all know that I was on time. Let's see who else was on time today. Creative Faye is here. She says the thing is an awesome. It's fun, a fun rewatch movie. It is. It's one of those. To me, it's like Jaws and Big Trouble in Little China. I can seemingly watch endlessly. I do also like Escape from New York, the John Carpenter trilogy there, the Escape from New York, The Thing, and Big Trouble in Little China, which isn't really a trilogy because they're not related at all, but they are Kurt Russell films, and I'm a big Kurt Russell fan. So, I watch those three I can watch pretty much anytime they're on. And yeah, not sure where I was going with that, but let's move on. The Thing, according to Corum, he says, who's here, says The Thing is an awesome movie, but how does it compare to The Man Thing? Well, the Man Thing movie, if you ever saw it, I think it debuted on the USA Network. Horrible. But the character is more fun to draw. And so that's the only thing. That's the only thing that keeps the Man Thing alive in my mind, is just the fun of drawing him. So not necessarily a great read or a great movie, but fun to draw. And that's all that matters to me. Balton Saijing's here. Says happy Sunday to Aaron and the chat. So he's including everybody. I think that's very inclusive of him. Let's see who else we got here. Pastmaster Dan joining us. Matthew Muma joining us. Chris Starr is here. Paul, 1978X. He claims that Childs was the thing at the end. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that, but I kind of, that's been done to death, and there is no right answer until they retrofit it. When they do this, the Thing sequel they're talking about, then I'm sure we'll find out that they will then have assigned one of those characters as being the Thing. What does everyone like better, The Thing from Another World or The Thing? Carpenter's The Thing. Now, Graham Nolan would say The Thing from Another World, which is a very good 1950s B movie, very good. But this, I think, is a superior film in every way. Graham, of course, would disagree with me, just like he disagrees that Star Trek 2 is a better picture than Star Trek the Motion Picture. So we have our differences creatively on those things. Corey Landis is here. CJE202, The Thing is better. I agree. Eric M. Boyd, he says, well, I'll be hornswoggled. Aaron Lopresti's on time. I just don't like this characterization. When I'm not on time, it's usually because it's someone else's fault. Tippy Tail McKitty, how about that for 1,000 jewels in a loot box? Thank you for that, Tippy Tail. Appreciate that. Michelle Bowers, lady with a sword, watch out. The sword cuts deeply. JP Roca is here. GJ Martinez is joining us. Pantheon 7900 is here. Tippy Tail says, have you read the new Inglorious Rex comic yet? I have not. I'm very much like Billy Tucci, where I order people's books and then they sit there, and I have the greatest intentions of reading them, and a lot of times it doesn't get done very quickly. So my apologies. I'm sure that it's brilliant, as Shane has done really good work on his books, so there's no reason to believe that it isn't great, but I have not read it yet. Let's see. Pity Maw is here on time. How about that? Craig 69 says, I'm not here. He never is here, and yet he's always here. It's very strange. Jimmy Owens is here. Hey, Jimmy, thanks for joining us. He says, I got an hour before dinner, so I made it live. Excellent. Well, I hope you're having, I got to make dinner after the show. We now have another house guest, another dancer staying with us. I could start my own dance studio. I've got so many dancers in this house right now. Eric Boyd says my volume's a bit low, is it? Well, let me see. Well, my volume looks good. I think it's your problem, Eric, but thank you for the heads up. Past Master Dan saying it's very low. Really? My volume is turned up. I don't want it to get too high where we start to have a problem. All right, how about that? Let's see. Stealth is here. And Dino Palazzo. What a joy is here. He says, Aaron loves drawing the man thing. Now, normally this would not be a big deal, but because you can't spell my name correctly, it is a big deal. So let's see here. My daughter just cut a chunk out of her hair because her hair tie stuck in a knot. Boy, kids, I tell you. Coram sends me 2 jewels. 2 jewels. Isn't that 10 cents? I'm not sure. Jimmy Owens for $2. Thank you, Jimmy. Says thank you and Shelley for everything. You are more than welcome, Jimmy. More than welcome. Thank you. Okay. There's Stealth X5 is going to give me $2 to say hello. I appreciate that, Stealth. Thank you very much. Let's see here. Now, GJ Martinez is saying I had to crank up my TV audio. I don't know what's going on. It's better. You may be too far away from your microphone. It could be, but usually it picks up pretty well. I'm afraid to go too high. I'll turn it up just a little bit more here and see what happens. GJ Martinez, my TV audio is at 60. Yeah, that may be a you problem, though. Yeah, I don't know. Anna, the Star Wars girl, was telling me to switch over to Rumble Studio and get rid of StreamYard because we keep having all these little glitch problems with StreamYard. So I don't know what the heck's going on. It should be plugged in. Where is that coming from? Oh, no wonder is this not plugged in? What in the world? Is that the oldest joke in the book? This thing ain't plugged in. No wonder it's not working. All right. What the hell? How did this happen? Can't even find the cord now. That would explain why my volume isn't working because I'm using this one. Hang on a second here. That's not it. Good Lord. What a way to run a railroad. That's an old joke. A very old joke. Where is my cord at? That's a light switch. Hang on a second here. How in the world? I can't even find the cord now. It's like completely disappeared. Oh my gosh. What? No, it's not wireless. How did I don't know what's going on. Hang on a second here. I'll have to switch microphones. Okay, how does that sound? Is that better? Does that sound better? Hello. Okay, yeah, just somebody just give me a thumbs up or something. If you guys can hear me right now, I'd appreciate just letting me know. I'll figure out what the heck happened to my microphone later. I can't even freaking believe that. Steel Red says it sounds the same. Whatever, we're going to survive. Okay, I'll work on it later. I would expect nothing less from you, Andino. Thank you. Okay. All right. That is just freaking hilarious. See, there's the thing right there. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hang on. Hang on. Okay. We may have solved the problem, folks. Just a small glitch. Okay. Hang on. Okay, that was pretty funny. I mean, it was funny, but not really. It's kind of embarrassing, actually. Okay, now, here we go. All right. It's fantastic. All right. Okay. Let's get on with the show. Yeah, okay. I have no response for that. That was pretty much that was worse than anything Billy Tucci's ever done. So I can't even defend myself. There's Kaiser Sose said, glad I missed the first team. I wish I had. Hey, it's Angela Chocolates Curry in the chat. How about that? When was the last time we saw Angela around here? All right. Okay, so let's get to it. Oh my gosh, what a nightmare. I'm probably going to take crap for watching this movie, but I saw this movie a couple of nights ago. And because I heard it was interesting. Now, I'll admit I'm a big Woody Allen fan, not personally, of course. The guy's got some issues for sure, but to call out Woody Allen to having more issues than anybody else in Hollywood, I think that's just pretty much weirdo Hollywood culture. But I will defend him as a filmmaker, that he is oftentimes a freaking genius, and his insights into the human condition are pretty remarkable. So anyway, I watched this movie and it was funny, witty, charming, clever, and actually had some heart to it. And I actually enjoyed it. Now, the funny thing is here that Owen Wilson plays, what I think is funny is he kind of plays this frumpled American writer in Paris. And it was like, if he'd shot this 30 years ago, Woody Allen would have played the part. This was a part, you could tell that Owen Wilson was taking Woody Allen's part in this movie. But he goes back in time, and he's engaged to what's her phrase? Rachel McAdams, who's just a real Hollywood shallow, and her parents are there, and they're all sort of focused on money and all this stuff. And but Owen Wilson is an artiste. He's a writer. He's a screenwriter, but he wants to do a novel, right? So he travels back in the 1920s Paris and meets all these literary figures and all these. It's just really clever and interesting, and so I recommend it. That's really all I had to say about it. I just wanted to throw it out there because I did see it for the first time. And I know that, there was that Woody Allen, from the 70s through the 80s, it was pretty unbelievable stuff. Crimes and Misdemeanors, if you haven't seen that, you need to see that. But, so I wasn't sure, because a lot of his latter films haven't been all that great. But this one got pretty good reviews, so I said, okay, I'll check it out. And so I'm going to give it a thumbs up and say, yeah, this is one of his better efforts in a long time. So there you go. I don't love Woody Allen personally, but I do respect him as a filmmaker because he's a heck of a filmmaker. And so Midnight in Paris, if you want kind of an offbeat romantic comedy, because it's not really a romance and it's not really a comedy, but it is kind of a little bit of all that stuff. And so there you go. I just wanted to get that out of the way. And I'm a little off my game now because of the whole microphone ordeal, but I'm kind of settling back into it. So let's get into our regular features and start off with I always warn people, especially people in my family, to don't shop if you don't have any money, because it's just an exercise in frustration. So I only shop when I'm ready to buy something, right? Like I would not go car shopping unless I was ready to buy a car. Because what's the point? I'm not going to go look at a pair of $150 shoes when I got 20 bucks in my pocket. It just doesn't make any sense. Why do that? Well, the one problem I do have is I kind of tend to look at comics regardless, do a little comic shopping. And yeah, when I don't have money to buy comics, it's pretty frustrating exercise. You can go, oh my gosh, what a deal. I got to jump on this. But then you're like, I really don't have the money. And you're like, but if I don't get it, I'll never get it. But of course, it'll always come again. So anyway, now this is a book that I don't have to worry about ever buying. But I do know someone who has a copy, and not in this nicest shape though. Let's take a look. Yeah, boy, there it is. This is Hulk #1 from 1962, 2 years before I was born, in a 9.2, which is an amazing thing because this book is very difficult to find in high grade. It's not, there's not a lot of copies out there to begin with, and then the ones in high grade are really, really difficult to find. I hesitate to call it scarce or rare because I don't think that's an accurate description, but at least in high grade, it's very difficult to find. So here you have a 9.2 that sold on Heritage this year for $732,000. Now, the person that owns this is willing to sell it if you will make him an offer of about $1,098,000 or more. I'm not really willing to drop $1 million on this right now, but I wouldn't mind owning this book. Now, I know someone who does. The person that you would think of that is most disrespectful to old comics that I'm aware of is Graham Nolan. Graham Nolan has a copy of this, and he just flips through it like it's whatever. And he got it in the 80s, I guess, when it was much more affordable. And I think he probably has a lower mid-grade copy, but still a decent copy of it that still is very valuable. And he just shows it such disrespect by, yeah, I know, reading it, of all things. All right, let's take a look and see what our friends over at Go Collect have to say about this book. I got to flip my screen here. There it is. Okay, so we know it's the first appearance of the Hulk, and it's the gray Hulk. And of course, many of you know the legend that it was originally gray, but they kept printing it as gray, but when they came back from the printer, sometimes the gray looked blue, sometimes it looked purple, sometimes it looked green. It was just picking up weird. So they finally changed him to green from gray. And I want to say that was the second issue. They said, let's just get rid of the gray and let's go with the green. Now, as you can see, there is quite a few of these out there, graded 2,295 copies of this, but you're going to find that most of them are lower grade. There's 8 9.2s, 13 9.0s, 47.5s. That's but if you compare this to like Amazing Fantasy 15 or Fantasy 4 #1, you're going to find them have twice as many copies of this. But anyway, let's look at the sales history. So back in 2018, pre-COVID, $336,000. Okay, so that wasn't that long ago. 6-8 years ago. Then we had a high at COVID at 825,000 through Heritage. Then it dropped to 780. Now it's dropped to 732. So again, we see that readjustment period after the artificial inflation of COVID. So I think this is probably pretty much where it's at right now. Is about, anywhere from $700 to $750,000. So that's worth more than my house. So would you rather live in a cardboard box with a nice slab 9.2 of Hulk #1, or a nice home with a roof over your head and no Hulk #1? Those are the kind of the options that I'm looking at. And I'm going to stick with my house, I think. Although this might appreciate more than my house. I don't know. Yeah, both. See, I used to do this when I was a kid. I'd go, if I could go back in time. Actually, I've done it as an adult. I definitely be buying comic books if I went back in time. Actually, you know what I would do? I would be buying comics, but I'd also be buying original artwork. Like, you'd have to see. Here's my strategy for going back in time. You'd have to go to like a stamp and coin and a currency shop and get, like, let's say you wanted to go back to. You don't want to go back too far, right? So you can't really function. So I would go, say, the early 70s, where everything was dirt cheap anyway, right? And but you'd have to get a bunch of bills that were, say, marked 1968. So I go to my stamp and coin shop or whatever, and I get a bunch of, maybe I get $5,000 in cash, if you could even find it. You'd probably have to go to several shops and try to get dollars and stuff that were minted prior to the date you're going to go back, right? Because you have to think about these things. And so then I would go and buy up some Wrights and stuff, and some Barry Smith and some Kirby, and then I would original artwork, and then I would, maybe some Neil Adams stuff, and then I would get my old comics. Like, I think Superman #1 was a couple grand, back in 1971, or Action Comics. So yeah, that's what I would do. And Dino says he'd go back in time and steal Aaron's stuff after he went back in time. Now that would suck. Craig says, I got that book. It's called a reprint, Aaron. Yeah, but it's not worth the money. I'm all about the money. Don't you guys understand that? I am a capitalist pig. So, all right. So anyway, there you go. That is our expensive comic of the week. It is Hulk #1 that our good friend Graham Nolan has a copy of. He's probably sitting on it right now watching TV and doesn't even realize it. I just give him my heart. I'm giving a heart attack or something. Just thinking about it. All right. Let's get into this thing. Now, we're all thing experts. We've all seen the Carpenter movie a million times, and we all like to debate about, was MacReady the thing at the end? Was Childs the thing at the end? Was nobody the thing at the end? Was everybody the thing at the end? Well, after watching it again, and I've done the breakdown before. We've done a very detailed and specific breakdown on that film on this very channel about the ending and who's the thing and who isn't. My gut reaction has always been, when I watched that movie, that neither one of them was the thing. If Childs was the thing, why didn't he go back and help Blair kill all the other guys when they're still in the compound? See, I think Blair was in the compound stealing the generator. So how could he have infected Childs, who had ran off into the snow? Right? So it seems unlikely. And I also don't think, when could he have possibly got MacReady? When? There was no time for him to get MacReady. MacReady blew him up and he was human. So where did he get changed? So it's not MacReady. And what you see in interviews and stuff with Carpenter, they don't even know. They didn't make that decision. No, they pretend, they're being coy, but they did not make that decision, because no one seems to know. Everybody has a different opinion, even the people that worked on the film. So I think it was left open-ended just to have these type of conversations. What do you think? Because that was part of the whole gist of the film, was the paranoia. Who's the alien? Who isn't? Although I do think there's a nice little moment at the end of that film where MacReady hands Childs the drink, and Childs just drinks it without even thinking. Like, if I had any assumptions that MacReady was the thing, I would not drink from that bottle, right? But he doesn't hesitate. And then McCready kind of laughs under his breath after he takes the drink, and then we kind of fade to black or whatever. That might be an indication that McCready knows or thinks that Childs is the thing, because the whole gasoline, that wasn't really booze. It was a jug of gasoline, or kerosene, excuse me. But we don't really, that's not really set up. So that's just conjecture. So anyway, that's not why I'm doing this. Here's why I'm doing this. Something that kind of irritates me. And this is kind of a side note. I'm going to show some posters. So that's kind of the bonus of this. Okay, here's the original poster from this movie. And this was turned around, as I recall, as legend has it, in 24 hours. So Drew Struzan got the call. Hey, we need this thing turned around by tomorrow. So he stayed up all, he got the assignment. He posed as the guy in the jacket there and came up with this concept, which actually it's a very simple poster, but I think it's quite effective. And so give Drew Struzan credit for coming up with a nice concept design here on very short notice. And then, he had to do something simple so he could pull it off in 24 hours. Can you imagine even doing this 24 hours? Oy. So when this came out in 1982, it bombed. Okay. And there's a lot of conjecture about why, because, E.T. was rolling at that time, and that's the kind of aliens that people wanted in 1982, not these, this, horrific sort of nihilistic kind of ending to this movie. And they wanted E.T. They wanted a children's dream of an alien encounter. And so this didn't do well at the box office. Also, and here's the big thing. This was very, well, I'm going to say it was poorly reviewed, but it was not well reviewed. This was, back in the old days, the review on it was like 2.5 stars. The critics were complaining that it was too gory, too graphic, if you can imagine that, right? And then they were saying that Carpenter was relying too much on special effects, gore, and not enough on actual horror, which is absurd. And so there was all these sort of conditions, if you will, socially or artistically at this period of time, where the snobby critics were just trashing this film. And then, what do we look at now? This is now considered a classic film. And if you go back and look on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a critic score of 85%. So what we have is a bunch of critics going in and retrofitting their reviews, which I find very annoying. So now when this movie, now is that because it became a cult classic and everybody was, oh, were we all wrong about this? Or they didn't have the guts to stick with their initial presumptions and observations about the film? Or did they look back and go, wow, we reviewed this as a reflection of the time period we were in and not objectively as a film? One of the great examples of this was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Mike Clark, and I'll never forget this. I don't know why I will never forget it, but I'll never forget it as long as I live. Mike Clark, who worked for USA Today, I read this paper, read the reviews. On the entertainment section, it comes out, and the title said, "A rousing return for Indiana Jones." This is for Temple of Doom. And this was out of a 4-star rating system, right? he gave it 3.5 stars. Okay. And just talk about how great it was. I'm not kidding. Then all the reviews came out and everybody hated on it, right? Because it was too violent, it was too dark, and it was too this, and it was too that. And within a month or less, Clark had changed his review from 3.5 stars out of 4 to 2.5 stars, and completely changed his review simply by peer pressure, which absolutely, that kind of pisses me off. I like Temple of Doom. I liked it when it came out. I thought it was a bit too much when they pulled the heart out and the guy was still alive. I was like, come on, let's not go too voodoo here. But I still really like that film and enjoy it. So I'm taking this segment on the thing to rip on critics. And to take a look at all these various movie posters. This one's not bad. The execution of it, it's very, very similar to what Drew Struzan would have done. It's stylistically. But I would have made McCready bigger, I think. But I like the color, and it's an illustration, so therefore I like it. Let's take a look at this. So the question remains, why did everybody change their opinion about this film? This I don't think is a good poster. It doesn't really tell us anything. Everything is too small. I'm not saying it's, it's not well drawn or painted or whatever, but I just don't think the design is that great. I should do one. This one I like a lot. I'm sad that I like it because it's probably there's probably nothing traditional about it, but I really like it anyway. This whole thing down here is cool. You got a big shot of McCready. I like the texture. I'm sure this is all digital. Maybe not, though. That might be, that looks like there might be some colored pencil on there. I don't know about this. I don't even know who did it, but I would actually buy this poster. I like this poster a lot. I like, again, the big McCready here. It gives away a little bit. I love this kind of framing down here with the creature and everything. Kind of gives you an idea something's going on. You get interesting photos of all the main guys in the film, or illustrations of them. Citizen Ronin, these are all like, they have all these studios now that release new movie posters, and even people are just, I think, solo doing it. Illustrators are doing their own movie poster versions. Oh, look at this. There's like some weird head right here growing out of McCready's arm, kind of right there. That's interesting. I like that. So I really like this one. I don't know who did it, or I'm sure it was released by somebody. This, I think, is interesting as well, because you get like this, look at this guy with the claws and everything here in the foreground as a framing device for all of our guys in the background. It's, it's not the most ingenious layout. We've seen it before, but I do think it's effective because I do like the element. You get the monster element, but it doesn't really give anything away. The only thing I don't like about it is you don't really get the actors in it. But I do think it's a strong design and effective. And one more. This really feels like photo manipulation, but that's okay. This sort of weird, the problem with this is it doesn't really tell the story. If you look at this movie poster, it makes you think that Kurt Russell is a guy who's like lost in the wilderness and he has to defeat this creature that's stalking him. You know, that's the vibe you get from this. So it doesn't really do a good job of telling the story of the film. But I do think it's interesting in that, you know, what we got with this monster thing going up here. But it does look to me like this is a lot of photo manipulation. This looks like a photo of Kurt Russell doctored up in, you know, some program or something. Who knows? It could be AI. But it's very different in its sensibilities. So that's kind of what caught my eye about it. I would never have thought to do this. And I just told you why, because I don't think the storytelling is accurate. But I do think as to kind of grab your attention sort of image, I think it works pretty well. So, but there's a ton of these out. If you just like look up for the Thing movie poster, you'll get a ton of options. And so this wasn't really my intention to go this route, but because I found all these kind of interesting movie posters, I thought, let's take a look at these. But my main point with the movie is it's just, I find it interesting that a movie can be panned when it comes out and then 30 or 40 years later suddenly be considered a classic and a great movie because nothing's changed. The movie is still the movie that it always was. If we're going to be judging something, we should be objective in critiquing it. But clearly that's not the case, obviously. I mean, I'm overstating the obvious. That's clearly not the case when you change your opinion about something. You're allowing some influence, whether, you know, whatever it might be, other critics, people's opinions, what you think you should like or what you think you shouldn't like, depending on what's going on in society, all these things that keep you from being objective. And who knows, people, like I said, they may have changed their reviews on this because we as the fan base for this film love it. And it's got this huge cult following. But I loved it when it came out. I thought it was great when it came out. I don't change my opinion on this movie. I thought Jaws was great when it came out, and I think it's great now. So just my little, you know, at critics. Yeah, Something Wicked This Way Comes is one of my favorite movie posters of all time. It's very good. It's by Bob Peak, I believe, isn't it? Pretty sure Peak did that. That was a nice one. That was a nice one. Alrighty, so there you go. That's just kind of my out of the box thoughts on the Thing. We can argue till we're blue in the face about who was really the Thing, but we'll never know. And even like I said, if they do the sequel and it's like Kurt Russell 40 years later or 50, whatever. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do or even if they're going to do it, but I keep hearing they're going to do it. And they sort of retrofit. You have to understand that was not, more than likely, that was not what they were thinking when they made the movie. You know, it's like George Lucas going back in and changing stuff in Star Wars where he says, oh, I had this big plan. You're like, no, you didn't. You just made it up after the fact, and you have to go back and retrofit all this stuff into a movie that already existed. So we shall see what happens there. All righty. Do you think the critics were put off by the body horror when it came out? Yes, they definitely were. As I said earlier, the critiques for that movie, a lot of them centered around that it was too gory, which I think is, we were in the 80s, right? We'd had The Howling. I mean, the stuff, what, you know, American Werewolf in London was what, 81? So it shouldn't have been, you know, I mean, it was pretty, the special effects were pretty crazy in this film, but I would have thought they would have been blown away by how good the effects were, not, oh, that's so gross. And then they said that Carpenter was hiding behind the special effects, basically that he was using the gore to create the horror as opposed to film, you know, good filmmaking techniques with tension and stuff like that. But there's a lot of tension in this film, a lot of paranoia. You know, the monster stuff to me is the icing on the cake. So anyway, that's my thoughts, and the thoughts of many critics as well. But it is now 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I think we can all rest assured, feel good inside, that that's a really good movie. So there you go. And I would assume it made its money back by now. All right, so we don't have a sponsor today, but as always, our sponsor for this wonderfully darn close to entertaining show is me. It's Barbaric Adventures, folks. We're at 46,841. We got a little action last week. It's kind of slowed to an absolute crawl since then, but telling you guys, this book is freaking next level. So as you may be running over to back Ethan's new project over on Back Me Bro, don't forget to back your favorite Barbaric Adventure book on Indiegogo. You'll find a link in the description of this video and also pinned to the top of the chat. And if you're on Instagram or X, you'll find it on my profile page there. This is an 8.5 by 11. Yeah, it's black and white, but it's black and white with tonal rendering, really high-end, high-quality artwork. We have 4 stories. Mine is called Primal Zone. It debuts. It's the first appearance of Primal Zone, if you're into that, which I think all good readers should be. It's kind of an Edgar Rice Burroughs-y kind of dinosaur interdimensional thing. Cavemen and lots of excitement. And here's my painted cover. I keep seeing stuff from David that is really impressive on his story, which is this young knight battling demons. It's this is his cover. Dan Lawless's Mars Madness, where futuristic Mars society falls into disarray and cataclysm, and barbarism rises, and betrayal and rebellion, and so you got this weird mix of sci-fi and barbaric stuff. And then of course Joe Jusko contributes this cover featuring Freya the Ice Princess. She will have her own little preview story, short story in here as well. So you got first appearances of all these new characters and new IPs, if you will. 8.5 by 11, so it's a larger format. But before you poo-poo the black and white, this is what you're looking at here. Look at this. You get this nice black and white art, but it's tonally rendered, so it kind of gives it that sort of a feel like it's color. But we're trying to recreate that sort of magic of, Savage Tales and Savage sort of Conan, Creepy and Warren magazine back in the day. Look at this. This is the best stuff I've done, maybe ever. Right here in this book. So this gives you a pretty good indication of kind of the fun-loving stuff going on in here. Mine has a little bit of tech in it, not too much, but a little bit of tech. A lot of barbarians and cavemen and dinosaurs and weird stuff. So I don't think you want to miss this. Here's some of David Williams. His first, like the preamble to the story, I think the first 4 pages are almost fully painted like this. And then it changes tone a little bit after the intro. But artistically, it's a great story too. And then here's some of Dan Lawless's stuff. Look at that. Look at that intense face right there. I love this. You get an idea of what he's doing with his tonal rendering here. So this is a really nice looking book, you guys, and the stories are really strong as well. So not only will it be a good read, but it's a good art book. It's a good read. All the things you want from your comic reading experience. So get in there and back this project. Here's just some of the stuff that the portfolio, the 5th cover, only available through the Big Barbaric box. We've got a sketchbook here, signed by me. It's all full of my stuff. This print, Snow Hunt, that features Freya the Ice Princess and a Yeti. Shot glass, we've got original art options here, just a few pages left. you keep scrolling down, you find all these rewards. 4-pack plus, that's all 4 covers, plus the sketchbook for $105. That's a $15 savings. You can get Barbaric Adventures, my cover, Dan's cover, Joe's cover, or David's cover separately. If you just want one, that's how you do it. You can get a combo pack of my cover and the sketchbook for $5 off, a combo pack of my cover, the sketchbook, and the print for $5 off. You can go big Barbaric box. That is all 4 covers, the sketchbook, the print, the portfolio, which is only a 4-print portfolio in an illustrated envelope, only available in the Big Barbaric box, along with the shot glass, and the 5th cover, only available in the Big Barbaric box. That is a $25 savings. There you go. And if you keep scrolling down through all the original artwork, you'll find all the add-ons down here at the bottom. And you can go way back. You can get Saved from the Trash sketchbook. You can get Wraith of God. All issues available. Kit Carter, Garbage Man, Power Cubed, Kit Carter sketchbook. If you want additional copies of any of the covers, you can put together your own order, buffet style. I'm telling you guys, this project is going to be incredible, and you don't want to miss it. Very hopeful to get this thing, all the drawing done by the end of September, and get this thing to the printers as quickly as possible. That was always the goal, but I've actually had pages that I've spent a week just doing one page, which was not what I thought was going to happen. But when you're working on a project with talented people and you don't want to be the guy that does the sucky story, that's what happens. So you got everybody is like working to outdo the other guy, and I'm telling you guys, it looks really, really good. So don't miss this. All righty. Boom. So where does that leave me right now? I'll tell you, I've got a splash page I'm doing right now. I'm on page 15 of a 24-page story. So you can see I'm getting close to being done. But it's a splash page. And it may or may not involve a T-Rex that I've redrawn now 9 times. 9 freaking times. But I think I've got what I want. So I can get that page finished this week. Gee, many Christmas. 9 times. Now, I haven't like drawn the entire page 9 times, but I've drawn the T-Rex 9 different times, trying to get the position that I wanted and the angle and everything, and something that I thought looked cool. So that's the problem with splash pages. They require a lot of work sometimes, but worth it. Okay, so I can't really show you. I'm not going to show you any more pages because I've already shown like 4 or 5 pages plus previews of other stuff. So, or like quick flashes of pages. So we're not going to do that. You're just going to have to buy the book. Gosh darn it. But I do have some other stuff I want to show you. Where to begin? I showed some stuff on Graybeards last week, where I had kind of like this run of like ideas, and I had to get them all down on paper, and then eventually you finish them when you get some spare time, whatever. Well, so I did finish this Hulk, and now this is bagged up because someone already bought it from me. But I had laid this out, and then one night after honestly getting frustrated with my T-Rex drawing, I just said, bag it, I need to do something else. My mind is fried. And so I finished this piece up, which I'm quite pleased with. Again, trying to get more effective use of solid black areas to create more volume in my work. And kind of like, I got a little bold here. Like, I had like, this whole arm was finished, but it lacked impact. So I said, you know what? I'm throwing a shadow on there, and like this, I put a big old shadow here. And suddenly this thing really started coming to life. So It's like, don't be afraid to cover stuff up with some black to create volume and impact. And then I was kind of feeling my John Buscema vibes here, and I had to do this Mephisto piece, which I then finished that. And the same person bought both of these from me, so these are now spoken for. But these were in that stack of artwork that I wanted to finish. And so as I would take breaks from Primal Zone, from the frustration of the mighty T-Rex, I would go in and work on these. So I did these. Leg Kick for 5 says, did you see the interview with Kurt Russell, Keith David, and John Carpenter at C2E2? It's on YouTube. It's around 50 minutes. No, I did not, but thank you for that. Thank you for the 5. I will check that out. I'm sure they're like saying stuff now that they didn't say before. Golem Wolf says, that Hulk is amazing. Incredible, even.
Boo!
Well, thank you for the compliment. The joke, though, you know. Let's see here. Thank you, Henry Jeremick. Okay, so that's not all I've done. I've been talking to Rob Delatorre, the guy that was doing a lot of the Conan stuff. And he's doing some really cool oil painting too. And I said, how long have you been painting? He goes, a couple months. I went, you gotta be freaking kidding me. So I'm like, I need to do more painting. It pisses me off. So I just whipped up this kind of Conan headshot sketch right there. I'm going to paint this just for recreational purposes. I don't know when, but hopefully sooner than later. Just to keep the painting going. Of course, that's going to be a major effort behind me, but I will paint that when I get done with the interiors. And then I was messing around doing some other like Conan sketch stuff here. Just, you know, I like the Conan figure there. I haven't really figured out what else he would be messing with, but just getting my barbarian vibe on. Golem for 5. Hey, Aaron, really excited for my copy of the Big Barbaric Box. Would mind if I used that Hulk art for color practice? Sure, go ahead. Thank you for asking. All right, so that's not all I've done. Now, what do we got here? I showed some of this on Graybeard, so but anyway, I was like, I did this weird Batman thing. I don't know why. Oh, actually, I do. I was listening to a video on the comic book makers, the one that Harlan Ellison narrated, and you know, just listening to guys like Wrightson and Kurtzman and even Art Spiegelman and Frank Miller and all these guys talking about how they were always trying to push the envelope and do something different rather than just kind of do what everybody else has always done. So I said, what if I drew a weird Batman? What would that look like? Well, that's what it looked like. So I don't even know what that means, but there you go. Just experimentation, fooling around. So I've got this, I've really got this Robert E. Howard thing going right now. So I have these ends that I cut off the pages for Primal Zone. They have this much paper left. And I'm like, what can I do with these? Well, I had this idea for a Red Sonja, right? So you can see I'm working in some design, some shadow designs over her from the leaves from this tree that's up here that she's standing under and holding that branch on. So it's going to have a lot of shadow, hopefully interesting shadow placement. It should be a very dramatic piece when I get it done. This will be black and white. And I said, well, you know, I should do Solomon Kane as well. So I knocked out this Solomon Kane piece. You can see the skulls there. So he's standing on kind of this hillside there. These are all in the same size, right? So I thought, well, I probably should do a Conan too, right? So the idea is these are all like black and white, highly detailed pieces when they get done, right? And I said, well, probably should do King Cole while I'm at it, right? So I'm messing around with Cole here, same format paper. And then people were like, well, are you going to do Brand Mac more? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Well, so I first did this one, Brand Mac Morn. And I was like, man, I like it, but I'm kind of like, well, this is kind of an action pose. The other ones are more kind of stoic. And I thought, well, do I need to do a Brand Mac Morn who's stoic? So I have this. And then I thought, well, what if maybe this is a better option for Brand Mac Morn? I don't know. So I'm kind of vacillating between these two right now. But the idea is finish all 5 of these and then release them as a print set. And I don't know how soon this is going to happen, right? I mean, at least I got them down on paper so that at least they're there. So then I would release them as a print set. And I see that Liam Sharp is like doing a Conan calendar, and he's also doing a Conan portfolio. And I'm like, well, if he's calling it Conan or whatever, he has to have permission to do it. So I'm going to, when I get these things done, my goal would be then to approach the Conan people and say, okay, how can I license this so I can officially release this? Because I'm sure it would help sales on it if it was actually an official, Robert E. Howard project. So again, it's early stages. They're all kind of laid out, and we'll get them done as I have time to do that stuff. But anyway, that is what is going on. Possibly, I don't know, honestly, if crowdfunding is the best way to go for non-comic projects like this. I don't know if I would even have to do that or not. I could, because I'm doing the artwork on the side, and it's not something that I'm trying to raise money so I have the money to pay my bills while I'm doing the artwork. It's just, this is a side project. So I would get all the artwork done. So it would be done. So all I'd really have to do is do printing costs. So I could do pre-orders on it, which would, through my website. I wouldn't even have to necessarily crowdfund it in that regard. I don't know what I'm going to do with it exactly. So, well, Luffy's saying you create a store. I know they've got a store on there. but see, the thing is, I've got my own website store. So it's like, I don't want to compete against myself. I'd rather promote my website. But I'm definitely going to do Wraith of God 3 on Back Me Bro, which will be the next, might be the next project. I might have a small one comic project in between. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. Golemo says, Aaron, I'm sure Titan would buy those from you. Well, that would be my first choice. Because if they printed them or used them somehow, then they would just make the originals more valuable. And then I wouldn't necessarily release them as a print set. They would be, say, released in some, so who knows? There's possibilities, but I got to get them done first. And then we'll go from there. Yes, Wraith of God 4. What did I say? 3? Wraith of God 4. Yeah, okay, I get it. I haven't broken down Back Me Bro and what I haven't really paid attention because on the details, because I'm just not ready to do it yet. And so I don't really get too far ahead of myself because tech stuff is not my thing. So I wait till I'm ready to do it, and then I figure everything out, and then I kind of conceptualize how I'm going to do it. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I obviously Indiegogo is a no-go after this project. It's just too ridiculous. I do think that there's possibly, well, I don't know. I need to find out if there's another audience, even a smaller one, over on Kickstarter that could draw in a few extra bucks. Because I don't know that running campaigns on a single platform anymore is going to raise the amount of numbers, both readers and money wise, that actually a lot of us need to function. So we may be looking at multiple platforms regardless. But we'll see as things go forward. I'm interested to see what Ethan's book does. It looks like it started off pretty strong on Back Me Bro. And I'll be very interested to see what Graham's book does as well. And, we'll go from there. I'm just, it's odd that I was the one guy that launched on Indiegogo after it reformatted. So I was the guinea pig. And now we've got guys that are now doing it on Back Me Bro. They're the first, but I'm just not ready. I don't have anything ready to do that there yet. So I will have the advantage actually of watching these guys do it and see how to navigate it. But anyway, a lot of thoughts going in my head, a lot of different things I want to do and want to get accomplished. We'll see how they all play out as we go forward. But first, it's Barbaric Adventures. Get that out to you guys. And then the seems like one long extended commercial, and then the second volume of this, which is a minor time commitment on my part, because obviously all the artwork is already done for my book. I just have to, the second volume of this, I just have to put it together. And so we are going to do Raw Imagination 2. I was thinking of calling it 7 more years of sketches, but then I thought, why not just go ahead and say 27 years of sketches? Because then I can go back to 2000 again, all the way 2000 through 2026, and put in, like, there was some sketches I left out from 2000 I wanted to include or whatever. I could do all that, as well as newer stuff that to fill out the latter chapters. So I'm thinking that's what I'm doing on this, but that again is a smaller, little aside type thing. Gollum Wolf, would you ever consider doing shorter projects for digital only releases? No, I would not. And I'll tell you why, because I don't think there's a big enough audience for that. I think there is a digital audience, but my experience with Marvel and especially DC, from everybody that worked in the DC digital department, was it's digital is a dead end. It's a finite audience, and they couldn't figure out a way to grow it. And if DC can't figure out a way, there's no way I'm going to figure out a way. So would you even be able, because you have to charge less money for a digital and you're going to get way less backers. So then it's like, does it even make any sense financially? And that's always comes down to that. Does it make sense financially? As much as creatively as I may want to do something, if no one's going to buy it, it doesn't make any sense to do it. So, Luffy as God said, we'll just call it Some Sketches. If I called it Some Sketches, then it wouldn't really be, it wouldn't be really a volume 2 of Raw Imagination. It would be a new book, which I could do, right? So a million things could change between now and when I get that thing ready to go, after I mess around with logos and things like that and see what I want to call it. And there's that, yeah, then also is the people ripping off the digital copies, which is also true. Dale says right now crowdfunding has a finite off. It does. So that's the problem. I've got to see this. I'm trying to maturely, systematically, logically look at the evolution of crowdfunding and where we're at and what's likely to happen, and then try to figure out ways, because it's obviously not as popular as it was. And any new approach, like when we first started crowdfunding, now granted there was a lot of political energy at the time and people wanting to get behind those of us who got canceled or we're not, allowed to play in the mainstream anymore. And there was, we had a lot of people supporting that, but then that kind of, the raw stuff sort of dies out, and then it becomes your hardcore readers, people that like the product you're producing, and are they, and are they going to stay with you? Well, I've got a core audience of you guys out there that support me, and I appreciate that. But a lot of the other stuff has fallen off. So then you got to figure out, okay, well, how do we make this make this model work? If you're not bringing in, 150 or $200,000 on a project anymore. So, these are all factors that I'm trying to get figured out the best way to approach the next project. Because I'm not ready to retire, so we'll figure out something. Yeah, Luffy says, we want a comic we can hold. 40 years, I need a copy in my hand or it's not the same. I agree. I'm that way. I like the physical book, maybe a little old fashioned, but I do, especially for something where the art is so important. I mean, I get you can read a novel on an iPad or whatever, but with the artwork and stuff, I just feel like you want the book. The Conan portfolio, I think, would do well at cons. It's so hard to be Jake. I see what you're putting in the chat, but I can't, what Ethan does or doesn't do is I'm not privy. So there's nothing I can do about that. I can only take care of myself and what I'm trying to get accomplished. But it's funny, things you think will do well at cons or whatever. I do think if it was licensed, it would do way better than if it wasn't. But I do think I do want to do it because I'm of that era. I'm of that 70s era where portfolios, prints, comic art as fine art was, very prevalent. And even, it didn't last for Wrightson and Neil Adams and Barry Smith. They all ended up going back to comics or into film because they couldn't sustain it. Because again, you're talking about a very limited audience of people. But if you have the right product, you don't need to sell a ton for it to be worthwhile. You just have to make sure that everybody that wants it knows that, or that would want it, knows it's there and then comes and gets it. So, like I said, I've got a whole list. At some point, I will release a publishing plan, going forward here for you guys when I get everything in order. Because I do have a lot of stuff that I want to do and get done. And quite frankly, before I turn 65. So, but I'm not exactly sure what order I'm going to do it. So when I get that figured out, I'll let everybody know what I'm planning. That's another consideration right there, going back to shorter projects at lower prices, more product. So you're basically, it's a wash, but you're producing 4 books instead of 1 book over the same period of time. You're making less money on each project, but collectively you're in the same ballpark. That's also stuff I'm looking at. JP Roca for $4.99. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I got Carol Ferris sketch in the 20-year sketchbook. I got a Carol Ferris sketch in the 20-year sketchbook. I would get Hal Jordan in the new book. Well, I will say this. I did those, that was during COVID when I would do like my Aaron cons, and I was selling those books. They're $20. The hardcover was $20, which I think is a good deal. 64-page book, $20 book. It was 20 or 25, might have been 25. And then I was just charging $20 for some really nice headshots on the inside front cover, which was really dirt cheap. And that's how I ended up like almost instantly selling out of the book, because people are like, oh, I'll pay $45 if I get an original. There's people that have five or 6 copies of that hardcover because I kept doing sketches for them for $20 a shot on the inside. And a lot of those sketches are pretty nice. So, did I charge 20 or 40? It wasn't very much, whatever it was. So I'm not going to be that generous again, I think. How little I charge for these nice big elaborate sketches that I was doing in these books. But anyway, it hasn't gone up yet, but it is. I've got the cover over there. I just, I'm trying to time it so that like, I'm going to put it up on Kickstarter for 30 days, but I want it to be like the last 30 days till the book is done. So then when it's done, it'll be done about the same time the Kickstarter ends. And then it goes to the printer. Then I can ship both for the Indiegogo and the Kickstarter and ship those out. And people are saying, well, put it on Back Me Bro. I just feel like Back Me Bro is relatively the same audience that's already backed me on Indiegogo. So I don't really see the point in that for doing a second campaign on Back Me Bro. Now to launch on Back Me Bro, I'm totally on board with. But to do it as a second campaign when I've already launched on Indiegogo, which most of you guys have already backed on Indiegogo anyway. So I think the only way to kind of get a different audience is to try like a completely alien platform, which is Kickstarter, to alien to Indiegogo, so that you might draw attention from people that, you know, are not in this like Comicsgate arena or whatever, that don't normally go to, you know, guys that stayed on Indiegogo and now are going to go to Back Me Bro. But Kickstarter is like a whole different group of people. So that's what I want to check out and see what happens over there. See, there it is. I'm gonna what I'm probably gonna do on the sketchbook is I will crowdfund the sketchbook, but only with the idea of trying to get enough just to cover the printing costs. If I get more, great, but it's just kind of to cover the initial printing cost, and then, you know, just sell it off my website and at cons. But there will be an option to get a sketch on the inside when I do the campaign. But it's gonna be a lot more money than $20 though. So anyway, there you go. All righty, where are we at? Okay, let's do this. All right, we're in 1944, and we're, of course, using the complete unofficial history of the Academy Awards. I use this book. It's revised and updated for the information we're getting. So we're going to assume it's true, but even if it isn't, hey, it's good conversation. So 1944. So the ceremony was held March 15th, 1945 at Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood, with John Cromwell and Bob Hope as our MCs. Now this was, so the war was almost over, right? So I believe the war was over December 1945. Am I right on that? When was D-Day, man? I should know that off the top of my head, but I don't. So anyway, we were close to the end of the war here. Now, this may be the lamest Academy Awards yet, except for Citizen Kane not winning and How Green Was My Valley won when it shouldn't have, in my opinion. 1944 gives us Going My Way, which is a fine, you know, what was the thing about Hollywood making, you know, musicals about priests? But anyway, it was the thing, and that was your Best Picture winner, which, when I read you the other the picture nominees, you will, we'll get to that in a second. Bing Crosby was quoted as saying, "Once or twice, I've been described as a light comedian. I consider this the most accurate description of my abilities I've ever seen." Interesting things about this year's ceremony. Ingrid Bergman was nominated for Gaslight. The year before, she was nominated for Whom the Bell Tolls. And she didn't even get nominated for Casablanca, which people not only thought she should have got nominated for, she should have won for Casablanca, but didn't get anything. But as a jab at the Academy, she wore the exact same dress in 1944 that she wore the previous year in 1943. But she was the odds-on favorite to win for Gaslight this year. Barry Fitzgerald, who is Best Supporting Actor from Going My Way, he was nominated as Best Supporting Actor for Going My Way and Best Actor for Going My Way, which is the last time they allowed a double nomination like that. How can you be both Supporting Actor and Best Actor? But he was nominated in both categories for the exact role, same role, so crazy. Bing Crosby was worried that if he won, that Bob Hope would make fun of him, and he was worried if he lost, that Bob Hope would make fun of him. And of course, Bob Hope made fun of him. So anyway, let's take a look at the movies that Going My Way beat out for Best Picture and all cringe together, shall we? How about this little classic? Alfred Hitchcock's Lifeboat. If you guys have not seen, look at that, John Steinbeck, Judas Priest. I didn't know Steinbeck wrote that. This is a great movie. It's a World War II drama where all these people they're on a ship, they get sunk by Germans, and they're all stuck on a lifeboat trying to survive out in the ocean. And one of the German soldiers is on the boat with them. You're on the raft the entire freaking movie. And it's captivating. It's really, really good. And as only Hitchcock could pull off. So this got nominated for Best Picture, didn't win. Hitchcock got nominated for Best Director for this and didn't win. Oh my gosh, I take it back. This did not get nominated for Best Picture. It got nominated for Best Director. So that's even worse that it didn't get nominated for Best Picture. But it was out and could have got nominated and is a better movie than Going My Way. Now, this is what everybody thought was going to win. Now, I've never heard of this movie. It's a movie about Woodrow Wilson, right? And a guy named Alexander Knox, which is that dude right there, they thought was going to get nominated for Best Actor or win for Best Actor, or whoever played Wilson. I guess maybe that dude right there. I don't even know who that is. So he was the odds-on favorite to win, but he did not. Bing beat him out. So Bing Crosby wins Best Actor, and Going My Way gets Best Picture. So there was a lot of hubbub about that. Like, oh, Wilson should have won. Okay, now look at this. One of the great noir films of all time, Double Indemnity. Billy Wilder, nominated for Best Picture, doesn't win. Loses to, yes, Going My Way. Unbelievable. And then, of course, Gaslight was also nominated, which, if you haven't seen that movie, is quite good. With, Charles Boyer? He was nominated for Best Actor. And, of course, as we said, Ingrid Bergman was nominated for Best Actress for it and won. So Ingrid does win for Gaslight. Let's see. Do we have a picture of the beautiful? There she is. Now, of course, you know the term gaslighting somebody comes from this movie, because the whole idea was her husband was trying to convince her she was going mad, so he'd get rid of her. So they had the house wired, no spoiler, that, you know, she thinks the house is haunted or whatever. And he's basically telling her that the things that she's witnessing did not really happen, and that she's crazy, which is basically the definition of gaslighting. So it comes from this movie. How about that? Ethel Barrymore won for None But the Lonely Heart, Best Supporting Actress of the great Barrymore family. And finally, let's take a look at some of the crazy behind the scenes stuff. A lot of them featuring our man, Bing Crosby, unfortunately, for him or his family, I guess. I do want to point out Billy Wilder was nominated for Double Indemnity, Otto Preminger for Laura, Leo McCarey won Best Director for Going My Way Again, and Alfred Hitchcock was nominated for Lifeboat for direction. So I just got a real problem with this year. I just think that was a joke. But this was the first year in which the number of Best Picture nominees would be limited to just 5. Producer, director, and screenwriter Leo McCarey was the first to win 3 Academy Awards for the same picture. So he won for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenwriter. That's not too shabby. The Screen Extras Guild lost their voting privileges. Don't know why, just as they did. And for the first time ever, the entire Academy Awards ceremony was broadcast nationally on the ABC radio network. Meet Me in St. Louis was not nominated. Neither was Vincent Minnelli for Meet Me in St. Louis. Fred MacMurray was not nominated for Double Indemnity. Judy Garland not for Meet Me in St. Louis. And Edward G. Robinson was ignored in Double Indemnity. So how about that? Just months before the awards ceremony, where Barry Fitzgerald played a priest, won Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, he beat a vehicular homicide rap. He had fatally mowed down an elderly woman on Hollywood Boulevard. Wow. Bing Crosby's uncooperative large ears were usually taped back for his screen roles. How about that? How do you get to be a movie star where your ears are so big they have to tape them down? He could sing, though. During his career, this is interesting, Bing amassed a fortune of more than $200 million. He left trust funds to his sons that wouldn't kick in until they reached the age of 65. 2 of them, Dennis and Lindsay, committed suicide well before that. Wow. The eldest, Gary, wrote a Daddy Dearest book claiming Bing tortured him as a child. And Bob Hope dismissed Gary Crosby's tell-all book with a quip. Bing tortured me all the time with his singing, but I never wrote a book about it. So there you go. Was Bing Crosby a good dude or was he a bad dude? Kind of looks like he was kind of a bad dude. Although I will say this. If you had a $200 million fortune and you left it to your kids when they were young, it'd ruin their freaking lives. It really would. So by making them wait till they're retired to get the money, it makes them actually be responsible adults and do something with their lives without counting on dad's money, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but I might have given him a few bucks here and there. I don't know, but there you go. Spaceman says Leo McCarey is one of the most underrated filmmakers ever. A great talent. Well, I don't have a problem with Going My Way, but I mean, it's a little ditty of a film compared to some of these other things that it beat out. So once again, we're looking back revisionist history over our films and can't seem to see the greatness in the moment, but always seem to be able to see it 20 or 30, 40, 50, 70 years later. What are you going to do? All right, so there's your Oscars for 1944. Now let's get into the heavy lifting of the show, where you get to disagree with my... Now, this is covers from Amazing Spider-Man. So Amazing 15 or Amazing Adventures, Amazing Fantasy 15 is not on this list because it's not part of the Amazing Spider-Man run, the title run. So there you go. All right. I do kind of have these in order, but I could be encouraged to change them up a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to start with us at number 10. Now, some may argue this isn't a great cover, but it's an iconic cover, and it is obviously iconic for a couple of reasons. One, it's Spider-Man #1, and two, those of us in the collecting world have seen it so much that I had to put it on the list, even though I don't think, in terms of design-wise or whatever, that it's would necessarily be just on the merits of it, artistic merit alone, that it would not make the top 10, but because of the iconography of it, it makes my top 10. Spider-Man has a hyphen. Yeah, I know it does. But sometimes I'm lazy. All right, so that's going to be my number 10 pick right there. Spider-Man #1. I don't know. You could argue it, but can you really argue it? Should be on this list. It's the first issue. Okay, this. Now, I'm not a, speaking of heresy, I'm not exactly a big Ditko fan, but this cover is pretty crazy, especially for what, 1965-ish? First appearance of the Molten Man on this all black cover. This is a pretty ballsy cover. And if you're a collector, and again, collecting shouldn't have any bearing on whether it's a good cover or not, but the collectors, this is a very sought after book because it's so hard to find in nice condition because of that black cover. But this is one that just kind of, this would have been hard to pull off in 65. A lot easier now with digital coloring and stuff, but this is it is pretty crazy. So that's why it made my list. Again, I don't necessarily think design of the actual image itself is all that, great. That's not really wasn't Ditko's strength, but just the concept, I think, is pretty freaking awesome. Now, here's another one that I have to put on this list. And I mean, it has to be on the list. And whether what you think of it sort of is irrelevant. Of course, this is coming in at what, 10? This is number 8. I don't think it's a great cover, but in a way it is a great cover because it's been ripped off maybe more than any cover I can even think of, next to, maybe Action Comics #1. And it's the quintessential McFarlane Spider-Man pose, isn't it? I mean, how often is this image getting used? And been ripped off. Moromi says 301 is better. Well, 301 is simply the same cover, but Spider-Man in his regular costume. So you have to go with this because it was actually the original cover concept. 301 is not the original cover concept. I bought this too. I bought it. I was in film school, so this would have been, was this 87? Maybe 88, probably 87. And I was going to Golden Apple on Melrose Boulevard in Hollywood, and that's where I would get my books. And I will say, McFarlane got me back into Spider-Man just because it was so unusual. And you don't have to like it to acknowledge that he was doing something really weird and different, and it obviously made him freaking biggest star in comics history, probably. I guess Jim Lee might, put up a fight, but I still think McFarlane was probably bigger. Sequential Treasures says, I think Hulk 30 has been ripped off more than this. Yeah, but Hulk 340 is not a Spider-Man cover, is it? Gee, many Christmas. Okay, so there you go. Now we're getting the covers I actually like. I gave you the ones I had to put on there, but now I'm going to give you the ones I actually like. Good old John Romita. That guy's figure work is pretty darn good. So, excuse me. You got like a back view of Spider-Man, but it's still a really cool pose. And again, this is actually well designed. But it's that the iconography of this cover. Some will say, well, the next issue where he's holding Gwen Stacy and the Green Goblin, what about that one? Well, both of those guys on the cover, the images of the characters are relatively small in order to accommodate equal mass to both of them. So I don't think it's as strong a design as this. And this one, it's like, oh my gosh, somebody dies. I mean, this was like, by the time we got to 122, we knew it was Gwen that died because we see that at the end of this issue. Spoiler. But this was kind of like, wow, are they really going to kill somebody? And gosh darn it, they did. And unfortunately, it was my favorite Gwen Stacy, and I'm still sad about it. All right, 1, 2, 3. So 10, 9, 8, 7. Here's number 6. And again, I am trying to not only pick well executed, well designed, well drawn, but also importance. That has to be factored into it a little bit here. Is this Kane inked by Romita, or is it just Romita? But this is a pretty, not only, now again, the content of the story has nothing to do with the cover, but this is the legendary 6-armed Spider-Man saga begins here. I love this issue. Morbius shows up in the next issue. It's just like it's like a Spider-Man horror comic. Okay, Marcus Kilgore says that's John Romita inked by Frank Giacola. Okay. So again, another nice Romita cover. The negative imagery behind it. The 100th issue. It's a big issue. I think this is a well done, well designed cover, and suits the purpose very well. 100th anniversary issue. All right. Oh, I've got actually like little numbers here I can do for the top 5. Number 5, probably the best cover of the 80s. There it is right there. In the Shadows of Evil Past. So is that J.R. Jr. did the cover, I think, on that? This is a great cover. I mean, it just is. You got the Hobgoblin, so now we're bringing back the Green Goblin, but in his new format, his new design as the Hobgoblin. So people are just, bonkers about this. Ripping the Spider-Man costume in half and revealing his face behind it. This is an excellent cover. And again, J.R. Jr. inked by J.R. Sr. There you go. And again, first appearance of the Hobgoblin, so it has historical significance to it. The Hobgoblin was Ned Leeds, but then they retrofitted that too, didn't they? And changed it again. That it really wasn't Ned Leeds, and he got killed for thinking it was. They thought it was him, but it wasn't him. But it was him. I don't know. I can't remember. But Flash Thompson was set up. So he wasn't really the Hobgoblin, but he was kind of set up to be the Hobgoblin for a issue. This was like the longest, which was cool. It was a red herring stories trying to figure out who the Hobgoblin was. And I think it was Spider-Man 189 where they revealed it to be Ned Leeds, but then they later went back and said, no, it wasn't Ned. It was, I don't even remember who it was. All right, so that was my number 5. Let's see number 4. This might just be a personal favorite of mine, so I may not being as objective as I could be. But they did make an action figure diorama of this, so it has to be pretty popular. Yeah, baby. So this is Romita's first issue, right? What a great cover to start off with. So you got the Goblin captured Peter Parker or Spider-Man without his mask on. So it's Peter Parker. I mean, so now we know the Green Goblin knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So this is a big deal. And what a shocker. Now, I wasn't buying comics. I was too young, regardless of what you may think in the audience. I was too young to actually buy this off the newsstand. So I found this later. I started collecting Spider-Man in the 70s, probably around 73. And so I had to go back and find this. But this has always been like one of my favorite covers. And again, they've made a toy out of it. It's like an action figure. Do you have it? I have it. And so there you go. I don't think I need to defend it too hard, but you know. Again, it's a great story. It's a dynamic, but also a great storytelling cover and a wow moment. There you go. See, Spidey and the Green Goblin both unmasked. People have been waiting since Spider-Man 14 to find out who the Green Goblin is. They've waited 2 years for this moment. And of course, it turns out to be Norman Osborn. Number 3. Pretty much have to put this one on there. And once again, we got a combo that features John Romita Sr., Gil Kane penciling this baby. Really well designed. So you got your Punisher, first appearance of the Punisher. And then in the scope, superimposed there in the background, you have Spider-Man. So because you got to get your new villain in there, but you've also got it's Spider-Man comics. So Spider-Man has to be featured. What a great way to do it. Really well designed and well executed. You know, Gil Kane was a guy who could draw. You know, he's one of my faves. And of course, Romita inking him. Yeah, I just think that and then the yellow background of all things really pops. That really works. This is a doggone electric cover. Yeah, I ruined it for Jake. He hadn't read Spider-Man 39 yet, so he's kind of bummed out about it. And apparently hasn't seen any of the Spider-Man movies either. Okay. I wouldn't mind having a near mint copy of that, but all right. So the next cover, I'll give you a little hint, a little heads up for number 2. This may be the most iconic Spider-Man drawing ever. You certainly could argue that point with me, but maybe not successfully. Of course, it's Spider-Man 68 Crisis on Campus. How often has this picture of Spider-Man swinging been used on stickers and cards and posters and ads? I mean, it's just, are you kidding me? So any image of Spidey this iconic, it's got to be in the top 5. And so I got it at number 2 of all places. But there it is. Beats out the Punisher just because of that Spider-Man pose. Sequential Treasures, Amazing Spider-Man 33 was on my initial, I had like 20 covers, and that was one of them, but it didn't make the final. I don't think you can argue with anything I have on this list. 33 is good though, but the reason that 33 is not on this list is because it didn't really represent anything significant in that issue. It was just a good cover. And there's a lot of really good Spider-Man covers. So what do I do to differentiate? And you have to go next level. And for number 1, I don't think controversial. It is probably the most sought after issue of Spider-Man after the first issue. And it is, of course, Amazing Spider-Man number 50, Spider-Man No More, first appearance of the Kingpin, for those of you keeping track at home. I'm getting booed by CJE. Well, you know, everybody has their own opinions, of course, but you know, this is a very educated opinion. I'm a longtime Spider-Man collector from way back in the day. It was hard. There was a lot of one. What number was it? 140. I see. The reason I didn't put 33 on is the same reason I did not put this on. Let me big this up real quick. If I can do anything really quick. Jeez, I don't even know if I can find it. Am I in the wrong ballpark here? It might have been. This is okay, there it is. I really don't see how this cannot be number, it has to be number 1. I don't even know what other you could possibly put in there that's even close to the significance of this cover. We talk about ones that have been ripped off a lot and paid homage to. Well, Henry Jeremick says, we matched top 10 covers twice. Amazing 100 and 129. Well, what's your number 1, Henry? Because I want to see what your number 1 cover is if this isn't it. Or I should say I want to hear what your number 1 cover is. Now, this is one that I had on the list, but has that been recolored? Somebody recolored that and it looks like crap. But like we talked about Amazing 33, this I think is one of the best Spider-Man covers, but it's just, it didn't have the significance that the other ones had. So you know, just on impact, it's pretty freaking awesome, but it didn't make the list. It was there in the top 20, but it did not make the top 10. And the same reason with 33. If this was a top 20 list, 33 would be on there, and so it does. Everybody's crying because I left 33 off. You know, it could be my I don't want to say prejudiced against Ditko, because I'm not. I like Ditko, but I don't love Ditko. Let's take a look and see what everybody's fussing about. And take another look at this. We'll revisit it. And I mean, like I said, it was there. It might even probably made the top 15 if I'd done the top 15. But if this particular issue was more impactful in terms of its content or what I may have squeezed it on there, but Sequential Treasure says that is a top 10 cover. I disagree with you. It's a top 15 cover. And I think I presented my case pretty well, and I'm going to stick with it. I could be convinced. Now, see, if I was throwing out the whole importance of the issue in my judging, like, I would put this probably in front of 28, the black cover, but the black cover was so surprising that the Molten Man cover, this is probably more iconic, but that all black cover, that was something else. So you could talk me out of it, probably. Talk me out of it. So I could flop 33 with 28 if you were going to if you were going to get violent. I might be convinced. Spaceman says no, it's top 10 for sure. Okay, well, we got to trade out. Are we going to trade out McFarlane's 300 for it? Are we going to trade out Spider-Man #1? The significance of Spider-Man #1, are we going to trade that out? We could trade out 28. That's probably the only one that I would trade out on this list. To put 33 on there would be 28, which is a different Ditko cover. So there we go. Trade out 28. They're saying Amazing Spider-Man 375 is mine. 375. Oh, is that the gold cover? I worked on that, man. I got a good royalty check off that. I think I got a $13,000 royalty check off 375. But see, that you're a product of your age. That was I did look at 375, look at 365, the black hologram cover. I tended to go a little bit more vintage, obviously, in my picks, because those are the eras. 251 should not have been on this list, James. You're higher than a freaking kite. Quit smoking weed and coming in my chat. Hi. All right. So anyway, I'll give you 33 in a negotiation. I'll give you 33. That's the only thing I'm going to allow. All right. Well, this has been fun, but it only gets funner from here because we're about to do this. Running out of water. I got to end this show. I'm talking so much. I'm getting parched. Okay, here we go. All right, what have we got this week to continue our Bigfoot lore? This little video I like to call pig stealing Bigfoot. This is a trail cam, actually. It's not a video, but it's a video of a trail cam shot. And, well, let's take a look. This is a pig apparently here, and this is Bigfoot about to steal said farmer's pig. Now, the story goes that this farmer put up this trail cam because a pig went missing. So he put in a trail cam to see what was what, and well, the next night, look what showed up. Now, couple things. That's a very unkept pig pen. Okay. So And why is the gate open? So Bigfoot could just walk in and take your pig. Because even if it wasn't Bigfoot, like some other animal, a bear, a cougar, something could come and take your pig. So why is there not like a gate there? Why is that open like that? And the pig doesn't seem to be too alarmed at the presence of Bigfoot here. Yeah, there's some questions here. Andino says the gate is open because Bigfoot opened it. Duh. Well, I guess. Jay Rasco's not buying the pig just standing there with a predator walking up. I would agree. And then, of course, Ronan is like, wait a minute, is this like the 5'7" Bigfoot? It's not a very tall Bigfoot. Also, if you look at the pig in the foreground, the focus seems to be fairly sharp. And our Bigfoot friend right behind the pig seems a little bit fuzzy. Not just in the sense of his fur, but in the sense of his out of focusedness. Look at how sharp the beams are for the fence posts. How crisp and clear that picture is. And Bigfoot's standing right in between them, and yet he's blurry. Angela Curry's 800 joules. Thank you, Angela. She says, turn it up. Now Eric Boyd says, no. These are free range hogs. Okay. But then Moromi says, exactly. You don't leave livestock just roaming around at night. I agree with that. Iodine calling me out saying that is hair. It's not fuzz, Aaron. So I apologize to any Bigfoot that I may have offended. Ronan, of course, has the answer. Bigfoot is out of focus because he just had a StreamYard update. Thank you very much. Ronan will be here till Thursday. Please remember to tip your waiters on the way out. James is saying that clearly he's in the middle of a dimensional rift or shift, which explains why they're always out of focus, of course. And Moroni says that a hog that big could take down a Bigfoot. And I would also agree that this Bigfoot is not quite big enough to handle a pig that size. So there you go. There's some. Yeah, Chris Star is still this. He's calling the interdimensional rift as the problem for the blurriness here. G. Roscoe, he's a little cynical. He's like me. He says, "Come on, enough of the pictures. I want to see Bigfoot come up there and grab the pig." Pardon the expression. And so, well, we can just log this in the file of. Yeah, I don't think so. Now, this one I like to call Lake Bigfoot. Now, I've been to many lakes. I've never had a Bigfoot experience, but apparently this guy has. If you look right here, that is apparently our Bigfoot from across the lake. So zoomed in on his phone, you know, it's going to be blurry. So built-in excuse, but I'm not sure that we can tell anything. That could be a bear. If it's real, that could just be a bear. Can we see? I mean, that to me looks like that could be a bear if it's real at all. Now it interesting, it glitches right here, but then we do get it coming out the other side. So we do get a longer video here. Well, there's another glitch. So that's starting to make me think this was AI pieced this together. There's another glitch. But if you're going to do an AI video of Bigfoot, can you make it look like Bigfoot? This looks like a bear. I mean, right there, it kind of has looks like it's swinging its arms out. Whereas right here, right there, like maybe that would be a humanoid type arm thing going on right there. Woo, good dance move. So, I mean, that could be a humanoid thing there. But again, we have the same problem that we keep having with these videos, is the glitching problem, which would just not happen unless they were stringing together AI clips. But if this is AI, this is pretty sucky AI, to be honest with you. Let's just take one more look here. See if we can glean any tidbits that might change our opinion here. See, I'm seeing bear, and then they get the arms right there, and you think, okay, well, maybe that's a, you know, a humanoid type thing there. Okay, so it gets by the trees, and then it starts glitching. Edit. And it's suddenly over there. Edit. And it's suddenly up there higher. Edit. And see, edit. We're searching for answers here, Andino, and I think you need to improve your attitude. I'm waiting to be proven, and these guys are doing a poor job of doing it. I'm cynical. I'm a cynic. I need proof. So we're trying to find some proof. That's what this is all about. Seeking the truth, my friend. And I want people to provide me with better proof than I'm getting. This is the Boise Bigfoot, Boise, Idaho. I might call this the full of BS of Boise. Now, I can't play the guy's audio, but he's like, there's something following me, man. Check this out. It's following me. This dude right here. And he's running around without a shirt on. I'm not really sure why he's out in the woods without a shirt on. Okay, so that looks like it could be an elk or something at this point, right? Like maybe there's some antlers up here, or a giant rabbit or something. Why does this guy not have a shirt on? Now that's definitely a bipedal thing walking around there. Definitely not an elk here. But the bigger mystery is, why does this guy not have a shirt on? Why is he filming himself without a shirt on? And he's doing it. He's doing the performance. And you're kind of like, I'm not really buying the acting job. I don't know how I would respond if I actually saw like Bigfoot or thought I saw Bigfoot. But a lot of the performance art I'm getting here from the filmers has not been great. And that's, to me, is kind of a, oh my gosh, it's Bigfoot. I'm like, okay, whatever. Okay, so we have this shirtless guy out in the middle of the woods filming Bigfoot, saying he's been followed, that this thing has been following him, stalking him. Colin Wolf says, you're not a real, what does he say? You're not a real redneck unless you go into the woods without a shirt. Oh, okay. Does Shelley believe? Shelley does not. She tolerates my my strange habits and interests, shall we say? I'm not sure though that she's as cynical as I am. Because not only do I not believe, the door is not even hardly cracked open anymore. Because it just comes down to the logical question. If there's so many of these things walking around, how in the world have we not captured one? I mean, it's just impossible. Or even gotten decent footage of one. It is far from decent footage. So I don't know what we're looking at here. This could be anything. Like I said, that could be a deer. Now this back here, right there, that's definitely a dude walking. Yeah, it's definitely not a deer, but you know, we can't, I'm not, that could be a dude in a hoodie for all I know. Doesn't really tell us much. Again, like I said, I think the bigger question of this whole video is why is this dude not wearing a shirt? It doesn't look like it's that hot out. You know, he doesn't look like he's been swimming. Why is he not wearing a shirt? Yeah, you might get ticks trying to cry star. It's dangerous. Wouldn't film himself if I wouldn't film myself if I see a real Bigfoot, to be honest. Well, that's the thing, right? He's trying to get in the video. This is more about him than it is Bigfoot. So that you question his motives right there. No shirt on, kind of the main focus of his video with Bigfoot in the background. I'd be like more like, yeah, what do I need to be in this for? Now, you dudes and dudettes have hit me up with this one all week. So we're going to take a look at it. This is allegedly a guy in a bathroom or an outhouse or something in Washington State at a park, using the can, looks up, Ron Perlman looking down at him. Tell me that is not Ron Perlman's face, and then you tell AI to make him look like Bigfoot. Go, you take a picture of Ron Perlman and say, make Ron Perlman look like Bigfoot. That is exactly what this is. How is that not Ron Perlman? No offense to Ron, by the way, but hey. This is creepy, but you know what it is? It's almost too well articulated. Like, look how smooth the lips are and stuff, you know? It makes me wonder. I mean, obviously, well, I'd say obviously, but obviously the best guess is this is AI. But boy, that looks like Ron Perlman, doesn't it? And it makes you wonder, did Bigfoot, I mean, how high is this bathroom wall? I mean, did he have to climb up there to look in? And then it's like, what's he looking in on you, man, when you're using the can? Doesn't he used to do that in grade school? It is a pretty good photo, though. I mean, it's pretty creepy. You know, you got your shadow here from the light from the camera, so that's consistent. You know, he's washed out because of the light from the camera. That's also consistent. But I'm just looking at how completely smooth these lip lines are right here. I mean, that makes me think AI. But, and like I said, this uncanny resemblance to Ron Perlman makes me think someone could have taken a shot of Ron Perlman and made him turn it into Bigfoot. Someone should do that. You guys that are like more proficient at AI than I am, like take a photo of Ron Perlman and have AI change him into a Bigfoot and send it to me. And let's see how similar it looks to this. Yeah, look at the teeth. Those are teeth, right? So those are pretty flat looking straight teeth. Bigfoot asking for TP. Art of Roy says, yeah, he's got a good dentist, that's for sure. Aaron believes in Bigfoot, but never believes the proof. Show me some proof. Show me some proof. That's what I want. We've seen on this show, let's be honest, there's been about 5 videos that were pretty good that we were kind of like, I'm not sure what's going on here. But the problem is it's so easy to fake stuff, that even fake good stuff. And I have watched a lot of examinations of the Patterson-Gimlin film, which is the original. Well, I've actually saw the two original Bigfoot films, which the Patterson-Gimlin one is the famous one, but there was one before that, which we've shown on here many times, that is terrible. And everybody in the guy's family said it was fake that shot it. So we can assume it's fake. And then the Patterson-Gimlin film, when I was a kid, I believed it, of course, wanted to believe it, as you do when you're a kid, right? And but then after watching special effects people take a look at it, and other people, that it's pretty much fake. And again, where's the hard evidence? This thing's been wandering around since 1969, I think, was in that video, was the Patterson-Gimlin film, and no one. We have television shows looking for Bigfoot and they can't find it. Unless the whole interdimensional thing is true. Come on, man. They got a giant squid on camera, and that's like way harder, should be way harder to find than a Bigfoot. And they did it, but they can't get a good Bigfoot. That previous photo would have had eye shine. That's an excellent point, especially that close. Look at the exposure. The Perlman. There is no reflectivity in the eye. That is an excellent point. GJ is still being open-minded. He says, yes, Aaron is right. We've only seen very few videos where we scratched our heads. I'm open-minded to this topic. I'm to the point I want proof. It's been 70, 80 years, whatever it's been. Where is the freaking, I mean, somebody needs to capture this thing and then go, here it is. And all the news actually cover it. If these are all real videos, why aren't there any news stories on them? Why? It's just, come on. We want some hardcore proof, but we'll keep digging. We'll keep digging until we find it, if we ever do. Now, this might be a little too personal. CJE wants to know, was the person sitting in that outhouse with their camera app ready? What were they doing in there? All right. Let's see. I got to remember the interview with Kurt Russell and Keith David and John Carpenter at C2E2. You saw that Kurt Russell was charging was it C2E2 or was it Toronto? Where Kurt Russell was charging $400 for an autograph. You got to wonder why he was there. Are they promoting something? Because I don't think he's ever done a Comic-Con before. And, you know, for $400 a signature, that's what I would charge always him. I was like, I ain't going unless you pay me a lot. So, anyway, that's a side note. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Remember to back Barbaric Adventures if you have not done also. Please remember also that I believe Ethan's got himself a new campaign. You want to go check that out over on Back Me Bro. That launched today as well. You guys hit the like and subscribe. We're slowly crawling up into the stratosphere of 4,500 subs after 6 years. I've been doing this show 6 years, and we got 4,500 subs. I guess that speaks volumes about the content. Oh, well, what are you going to do? I am what I am. Thanks, guys, for joining me. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week right here on Comics, Cryptids, and Cannibals. Good night, everybody.